Saul stood head and shoulders above everyone else.
That was the first thing they noticed when he walked through the hills of Benjamin searching for his father's lost donkeys. He did not look like a future king.
He looked like a strong son doing an ordinary chore.
But even then, there was something about him: height like a banner, presence like a promise. Israel had asked for a king.
They were tired of judges, tired of uncertainty, tired of being different from the nations around them.
They wanted someone they could see, someone who looked like protection. Saul looked like protection. When Samuel anointed him in secret, oil dripping down into his hair, Saul's face flushed with disbelief. "Am I not from the smallest tribe?" he protested. "From the least of the clans?" Humility sat on him well.
At his public unveiling, when the tribes gathered and lots were cast, Saul was nowhere to be found. They discovered him hiding among the baggage. It felt endearing then, this reluctance. This man who did not lunge for power, but had to be pulled into it. And when he first led Israel into battle, he was decisive. The Spirit of God rushed upon him. Righteous anger stirred him.
He rallied the tribes, defeated their enemies, and rescued a city under threat.
The people shouted his name.
Long live the king! Success settled onto his shoulders like a mantle tailored to fit.
He built an army, established order,
Stood at the front of lines instead of the back.
but something subtle began to shift.
The first crack was small.
Waiting.
Samuel had told him to wait 7 days at Gilgal, to let the prophet arrive and offer sacrifice before battle.
The army grew restless. The Philistines gathered. The seventh day stretched thin with tension. Saul watched his soldiers scatter, fear dissolving loyalty. He told himself it was leadership. He told himself it was necessary. He offered the sacrifice. The smoke had barely risen when Samuel arrived. "What have you done?" the prophet asked, grief shadowing his voice. Saul's answer came quickly. The people were scattering. "You did not come at the set time. The Philistines were assembling."
I forced himself.
It sounded reasonable, practical, but it was the first time he chose control over obedience. The kingdom would not endure, Samuel said.
The words lodged somewhere deep, but Saul did not let them take root. There were more battles to win, more victories to secure.
He was still king.
When commanded to destroy Amalek completely, he went to war with clarity and strength.
He defeated them soundly.
But he kept what looked valuable:
The best sheep,
the best cattle. King Agag himself
spared.
When Samuel confronted him again, Saul smiled.
"I have carried out the Lord's instructions." Behind him, sheep bleated. "What then is this sound?" Samuel asked. Saul's explanations tumbled out, blame shifting toward the people. Sacrifice offered its justification.
He had obeyed.
Mostly, obedience is better than sacrifice, Samuel said. Rebellion is like divination, arrogance like idolatry. This time, the crack widened.
When Samuel turned to leave, Saul grabbed his robe.
The fabric tore. "So the Lord has torn the kingdom from you," Samuel said quietly. From that day, something darker crept into Saul's spirit.
At first, it was restlessness, then suspicion. When a shepherd boy named David stepped onto the battlefield and felt Goliath with a sling, Saul felt pride swelling him.
He had brought the boy into his service. He had recognized his talent.
But when the women sang, "Saul has slain his thousands, and David his tens of thousands," the melody curdled. Thousands, tens of thousands.
What more could he have but the kingdom? The question did not fade. It echoed. Saul began watching David the way a man watches a storm cloud forming on the horizon.
Every success David achieved felt like subtraction.
The spear flew almost without his permission the first time.
A flash of rage.
A blur of metal. David escaped. Again and again, David escaped. Saul chased him through wilderness and caves, through rumors and fear, through nights thick with paranoia. The king who had once hidden among baggage now hunted shadows.
He sought guidance from the Lord and received silence.
Silence terrified him more than armies.
He consulted priests,
Prophets,
even in desperation, and medium at ender-crossing lines he once would have defended fiercely.
the tall figure who had once stood like a promise now stooped beneath invisible weight. Armor felt heavier.
The crown tighter, sleep thinner. On Mount Gilboa, as Philistine forces pressed in and arrows found their mark, Saul understood the shape of his story.
He had risen with humility. He had ruled with promise. He had unraveled thread by thread each compromise small enough to justify, each fear large enough to feed. Power had not ruined him all at once. It had exposed what he would not surrender.
As the battle closed and defeat became certain, Saul chose his own end rather than capture.
The man who had once been chosen for his stature fell upon his sword.
And Israel mourned. They mourned the king who looked the part,
The warrior who began bravely, the leader who might have been great. Saul's rise had been swift.
His unraveling had been slow woven from impatience, fear of losing favor, and a heart that could not bear to be seconded.
The tragedy was not that he was imperfect, it was that he would not yield, and in refusing to bow fully to the one who raised him up, he slowly lost the very kingdom he tried so desperately to hold.